long does it last? Can love be measured by the hours in a day? I have no answers now, but this much I can say. I know I'll need her till the stars all burn away, and she'll be there. How long does it last? Can love be measured by the hours in a day? I have no answers now, but this much I can say. I know I'll need her till the stars all burn away, and she'll be
The Andy Williams Show ran for 2 years on NBC, but in the spring of 1971, network executives, believing the format was dying, canceled 4 of its variety programs, including Andy's. His days of hosting a weekly network series were over. However, his presence was of critical importance to the music industry.
For the first time, live from Hollywood, the 13th Annual Grammy Award Show. Ladies and gentlemen, Andy Williams.
There would be no Grammy Awards as it exists today that were not for Andy Williams. I didn't persuade him, I just absolutely, Andy, you gotta save my life. I've got this show, I paid for the rights from the Record Academy, and nobody wants a goddamn show. But they did say to me that if you can get Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, or Andy Williams, we'll put the show in. So forget about Sinatra and Dean Martin. Andy's my buddy, right? I drove him crazy. He says, okay, I'll do your goddamn show. And he did, and that's how I got it on the air.
I knew the possibilities of the show. It's a great evening, and the recording industry really needed a show like that.
You know, the music that you fellows wrote, though, really did influence my life. It influenced it quite a bit. As a matter of fact, it helped tell the story of me and my partner.
Any songs in particular, Andy?
Well, let's see. It started off, I Wanna Hold Your Hand, and it finished with Bridge Over Troubled Water.
True. Touching. Shall we get on with it?
Let's do it.
Yeah, okay.
Andy hosted the Grammys for 7 consecutive years. It was a lone bright spot in what had become a downward career spiral for Andy. To compound matters, he was enveloped in a family crisis that shocked the world. The mid-70s were not kind to Andy Williams. He was without a network series, his record sales were dwindling, and his post-divorce personal life was somewhat aimless. Then, on a fatal afternoon in March of 1976, another gunshot made a horrific impact on Andy and his family.
Bob Biotti called me from Vail. He was looking all over for Andy. I said, what happened? Claudine just, shot somebody and And I tried to reach Andy, and I found out where it was, and I told Biotti, and Biotti called him and told him. Well, can you imagine a phone call like that?
My first reaction was my children, that I should go there, that I should support her, that I should make sure my kids were okay.
I went through a very painful, difficult time in 1976, and Andy was there to help me, to support me, as I knew he would.
Claudine was charged with manslaughter in the shooting death of her lover, Olympic ski champion Spider Savage. If convicted, she faced up to 10 years in jail.
With the Spider tragedy in 1976, that was a very scary time.
It seemed like the whole world, the press, everything was coming down on the family.
But we held together as a family. Our family supported each other and stood by each other, and my father came out and stood with my mother, and we all managed to move on.
my father was there from the very beginning, which was very comforting.
Just tragic across the board. I was just so sad to see my mom sad and to see her torn apart and to see the family. You know when something's wrong with your family, you can feel it. And it's just protect. I wanted to protect.
It got really out of hand. I mean, it just became an international thing in the news all the time. And I'm very glad that I went up there right away.
Claudine was convicted of criminally negligent homicide, a misdemeanor. She served 30 days in jail and was then released.
And it was an accident. I believe it was an accident. The jury believed it was an accident.
I think it brought us close. Something like that can shatter a family or it can really pull you in. And we got tough.
When the ordeal was over, Andy returned to Los Angeles, only to face personal heartbreak.
Well, when your father passes away, my father meant a great deal to all of us, and he meant a great deal to me. And I knew I was going to miss him, and I still did. He was a very loving, very bright guy.
Soon after his father's passing, Andy also lost his mother.
She was terrific. She was just like an old-fashioned mother. She was not interested in much other than her family and her children. Yeah, I miss her. They had a great life, my mother and father. I mean, they were in love to the day they died. Held hands all the time. It was just lovely to see. They were very happy.
In early 1977, after 15 years with Columbia Records, Andy was dropped by the label.
We played golf at Bel Air one day, and we were having a little bite to eat afterwards, and he was very serious. He said, I'm seeing a shrink. I said, you are? Why? He says, well, I'm just having trouble facing the fact that you and I are finished.
It was a difficult time because I didn't quite have a direction. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do.
As the 70s came to an end, so did the forward momentum of Andy's career. Although he made a few new TV specials, little seemed to challenge or excite him. Then, unexpectedly, a new inspiration appeared to jolt Andy out of a prolonged slump.
The first time I met Andy, we were introduced by a mutual friend.
And he said, I know a girl that's great for you. And I said, okay, I'm ready.
As soon as I met him, there was a connection there that, I'd never felt before.
A lot of times you don't think you want to do something, like, I'm never going to get married again. And then if you find the right person at the right time.
So one day in the kitchen, he just said, well, okay, do you want to? And I said, what? And he said, well, do you want to? And I said, what? He says, get married. I said, oh, well, that's a nice proposal. So I said, well, yes. And then I started crying, of course.
Andy was now 63 years old. At an age when most people are considering retirement, Andy, with a new wife and incredible energy, made a bold move.
When I called Andy, I told him there was this great place in Missouri. And I said, you belong down here. And he said, Missouri? You gotta be kidding.
And I went to see him and couldn't believe, what was happening in Branson. They already had like 20 theaters there.
He makes the decision to sell the apartment in New York, sell the house in Los Angeles, sell the office building in Los Angeles, and guess what, honey? We're moving to Branson, Missouri.
All of my friends thought I was nuts. I mean, they said, what are you doing?
Unwilling to gracefully fade away, Andy turned his life upside down. He risked his personal fortune and professional reputation by bringing pop music to a country town.
It wasn't until I decided to go to Branson, Missouri and build my own theater that I felt a direction, and I felt I know what I want to do now. I want to build this theater. I want to work there. I want to build a home there. I want to live there. I want this to be successful.
Over the next 12 months, Andy personally financed and supervised construction of a multi-million-dollar state-of-the-art facility.
I wanted the theater to kind of represent what I was, what I had built over the years on television and records, as what I hoped would be a quality, really quality, different kind of theater.
I know every single theater in New York City. There's not one that matches the Moon River Theater.
It is a Rolls Royce. I mean, the sound, the lights, the sets, the ambiance of the whole theater. I mean, this is really a sensory blitz when you come here.
It's a place that he's been able to just really create from his dreams and his thoughts and his heart.
All the ideas are his, and I mean, gosh, he even has to do with the scenery, and it's just, that really made me proud.
Andy's high-risk gamble resulted in personal triumph. Hundreds of thousands of people flock to the Moon River Theater every year to see his Broadway-style shows.
His joy comes from entertaining people, and coming to Branson gave him the opportunity to do that again, not just around Christmas time or on special trips here and there, but to do it full time. And it makes him happy. It's what he loves to do. He loves to entertain.
Even as Andy was wowing audiences in Branson, an ocean away, something extraordinary was happening.
The boys watch the girls while the girls watch the boys who watch the girls go by.
A British car commercial made Andy the hottest ticket in England. A tour was being organized. But one night, the very thing that had always sustained Andy, that had warmed the hearts of people everywhere, the one thing that enabled him to catch his dreams, vanished. By the late 90s, Andy Williams was happily remarried and enjoying an amazing career revival in Branson, Missouri. And then a British commercial featuring a song that Andy had recorded 30 years before introduced him to a younger, hipper audience.
Eye to eye, they solemnly convene to make the scene. They're making music to watch girls by.
And every kid in the world, or in England, started writing in and calling in, who's that singing and where can we get that record?
The ad was so popular that Columbia Records re-released the song as a CD single, and it accelerated into the top 10. Andy was booked for an extensive UK tour. But without warning, everything had to be canceled.
I did a very dumb thing. I had laryngitis very badly. And there are 2,000 people out in the audience, and I thought, I can't just not go out there and do a show when they've come all this way, some of them. And so I did it, you know, with this terrible laryngitis. And to hit any notes at all, I had to strain a lot. And I could feel something halfway through the show that I really had hurt myself.
And I said, oh, that's strange. I'm sure you'll be fine tomorrow. Well, the next day he wasn't fine, and he was kind of alarmed.
A doctor discovered a node on Andy's vocal cords, and it seemed his career was over.
Absolutely frightened. What am I going to do if I can't sing, if I can't create, if I can't do the thing that I love? And whether he's singing for himself or for someone else, that's a part of his life. That's what he is. That's who he is.
Surgery was recommended, but if the operation didn't go well, Andy would never sing and quite possibly never talk again. He was unwilling to take that risk.
So he went to another specialist, and this specialist said, why don't we just rest your throat? Can you take the next 3 months off? He said, hey, I can do anything if I don't have to have surgery.
And after 3 months, it had gone down like half. So he said, do you have to work anymore? And I said, no, not really. You know, I just cancel things. I waited about 8 months, and it just disappeared. And after it disappeared, then I was absolutely fine. It was as good as it was before. The only problem I had is I hadn't used it for a year. And then I had to strengthen it.
Once he was fully recovered, Andy couldn't wait to fly to England and experience his resurgent popularity.
My God, the reaction was just unbelievable. It was like 30 years ago when I first had Butterfly. Only this time half of them were 50 and 60 years old, and half of them were 17, 19, and 20 years old. First time I ever had anybody throw panties up to me.
Andy was an English phenomenon. His albums were reissued on CD, as was a compilation of old material boasting 25 swinging tracks.
I'm known as the Emperor of Easy. I mean, is that a weird thing? Andy Williams, 73-year-old lounge lizard. Once in a while, you know, I think about how I don't want to retire. No, as long as I'm happy and as long as I'm singing well, and I think I am singing well now, I see no reason to stop doing something I really like.
I think he's happier now than he's ever been. He's loved by his family. He's got a wonderful new wife. He loves his day, he plays his golf, he adores his dogs, and I look at him and he's happy.
As it began, the Andy Williams story ends, with music and his brothers. Having long since fulfilled his father's dream, Andy joined Don and Dick in a get-together at Brother Bob's house.
Bob has got a little bit of dementia, and he will sometimes not remember exactly who his daughter is. Other times he'll be very lucid. So we sat around, the four of us, and we were talking about the old days, and we started to sing. And he would sing along with it. And he was just grinning, he was having the best time. It was just so nice. That was the last time we've all been together, but my golly, that was really terrific.
Things never are as bad as they seem. So
in a career that has spanned 8 decades, Andy Williams met every challenge, personal or professional, in his path. Along the way, he created an extraordinary body of work.
Anybody can learn how to sing a song, but it takes a talented person to interpret a song, to make somebody feel moved inside when they hear it, when they hear what they're saying, what they're singing. Andy's got that. That's talent.
Can you imagine how many times he's sung Moon River? Imagine how many times he's gotten up and has performed that song. And he makes it feel for you like it's the very first time. And that is the epitome of a great performer.
Andy Williams, to me, is one of the great pop singers of my lifetime.
I think this is right. I think it was about 1954 he hit a bad note. And he said he would never do that again, and he never did.
Andy was a musical perfectionist. There just were no bad notes out of Andy or bad performances.
I love you, Andy. I love you. I can say that. And I always will. I had an awful lot of fun with you. You're still a great, great talent. And America loves you. And parts of Uruguay and probably downtown Santiago.
Andy's one of those that has transcended all generations, and he still has one of the most beautiful voices in the world. And he's just still incredibly handsome.
I don't know how he should be remembered, but I can imagine how he'd like to be remembered, and that would be as a good human being who brought a lot of joy to a lot of people.
I'm proud of his character. I'm proud of what he's become. I'm proud of how hard he had to work to get there. I think that he has a lot of inner strength.
Well, that's always hard, I think, to say how you want to be remembered. We're lucky in a way, those of us that record or have made movies or have done television shows where people will remember you and see you over and over again and hear you. That's what I want to be remembered for, is my music.
We're after that same rainbow's end, waiting round the bend, my huckleberry friend, Moon River. And me.
Good night.